Daddy Mac. Dan's 30 years got our way, trading life and markets every day. Rusty's chained to the mines, digging deep day by day. But when Option Omega releases new features, he's free to come out and play option. Omega, you're trading home, where every move makes you feel less alone.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, Troy. Good morning, Matt. Good morning, folks.
Hope you guys are doing well today. Matt, you're looking sharp in your Pacers gear. Dan, you look like you're 30 years old again, as always.
Sorry about that.
and as my teenage daughter told me yesterday, angrily, I look like a Frenchman.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
what are we going to do?
What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, what does that mean?
In our house?
Yeah, what's the context?
Not good. I've trained them the right way, I think, as an American, to despise Frenchmen. And so
proper insult, no context, none needed.
Exactly. Shout out to our French friends.
That's right.
Well, we had a crazy week last week in the market, just a cool and calm 400 points up. This week, who knows what's going to happen? But I was just telling the guys, the OO show is going to have some fun on location things happening in the next week and a half. First off, I use guys, when you're booking something, what do you use to book? What's your go-to app, website to book?
Oh man, that depends what I'm booking, but I think if it's like, I usually start with Expedia or Kayak to look at the options and then drill down from there.
Okay. Okay.
Why?
Dan,
what do you use?
Well, I'd love to. Dan, you're a traveling guy. What do you?
Well, when I used to do a few seminars when I was younger, I didn't know about apps, but I would go CheapTickets.
Okay.
Did you ever use that one, CheapTickets?
I remember that one, but I don't. Yeah. I never used it.
And that would at least, you know what it would do? It would at least narrow down, maybe like Expedia, which airlines were cheaper. And then I'd go directly to the airlines. Because if you ever had a problem, wouldn't you agree? Or Matt, what have you found if you're...
that's what I'm saying. I usually end up booking direct. And if it's, I use Expedia if it's like something that doesn't have a chain that I use regularly.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
I have used for 10, 15 years now, the app called Hotwire. And Hotwire, to me, here's the premise of Hotwire. I was talking about this in a philosophical way with a guy from church last night. It represents something to me. It's interesting. So Hotwire is basically, you can tell it the map of the area you want to stay in. And you can tell it, the amenities you want to have, the quality hotel you want to have. And then basically they'll say, all right, here's a deal for you. And it's a 4-star hotel. It's usually $300 a night. It's on sale for $90 a night.
Wow.
But here's the trade-off. There's no refunds. And you don't know what hotel it is until you click the buy button.
It's you might get fooled by randomness.
Well,
you don't know what's happening.
I have before. So just a quick history. This is really important, I think, for the OO show.
I like this.
When I have stayed in like 5-star resorts in New Orleans, like on Bill Street or whatever street it is. No, that's Memphis. What's
French Quarter?
Fresh Quarter.
Bourbon
Stayed in the
Street.
French Quarter.
Yeah.
Bourbon Street. Yeah. Stayed like crazy nice hotels for like $70 a night.
Wow.
Using Hotwire. I realized in that same trip one time though something I had forgot, which is basically Hotwire is awesome for big cities, and it's terrible if you need a last minute place to stop in some podunk town. Because what happens is it's like their algorithm doesn't understand the limits of the city. And so I was in Kentucky a couple weeks ago, and I used Hotwire, and it put me like 20 miles away from where I was.
Sure.
Oh my.
And so it's not good at that. Anyway, saying all that to say, OO Show is going to be live from Washington, D.C. this week, at least on location. Part of us. We got Finland and D.C. and Indianapolis coming this week. I used Hotwire Friday night, and to my surprise, gentlemen, I told it where I wanted to stay, and this is what popped up. We're staying at the Watergate Hotel.
Oh my goodness, there it is. Better make sure your door's locked, huh?
That's right. That's right.
Use the deadbolt.
Wow, that's awesome.
What's crazy is I never thought I'd see this in a million days, but as soon as I booked it, I got a call, and President Trump wants me to do a favor for him.
Okay, here we go.
And so I'm excited. I'm excited for it. So anyway, I thought that was very cool as a amateur history guy who loves history.
Do you think they'd have like a little tour, like a Watergate tour to give you? I just want to know that parking lot. Where in the parking lot did they kind of deep throat? That.
Yeah.
Can you stay in the room? Is that room available?
I think it's a suite now.
Okay.
I think it's like $5,000 a night.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to monetize that. Come on.
You got to monetize that.
Troy, not trying to belabor this. Can I, real quick? Do you ever do Priceline to book stuff?
No. Man, what was the one I used before Hotwire?
So Priceline is similar. They have a name your price, and
And I liked it. I'll be honest with you. I got addicted to it a little bit because it was kind of like a trading thrill.
Yes. The randomness.
5-star, and they tease you like you can get something for $70. And I'm like, and even though I kind of knew that in your stomach, like it can't be that good.
Mm-hmm.
You hit some, but the batting average was low because, like Troy said, a couple nights I got a bad one, and I'm like, what? But it's that thrill because you hit that button, and then it's like 40 seconds you wait, and you feel like a gambler. You feel like what do they call that? A riverboat gambler. And then when you see the hotel, you're like, oh my. But you made a good point that if depending on the city where it is, it's a real risk. Like if you did Newport, Tennessee or something, right? Or or like Rensselaer, Indiana. Did I say the word right? Rensselaer?
I think so.
Yeah.
Rensselaer, you said it right. It's Rensselaer.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to use this for a big area. Yeah, I got you.
Yes.
Yeah. So anywho, that'll be fun. And then the following week, we're going to be live at the Options Industry Conference. So that would be cool.
Troy, you're a traveling fool. You're all over.
What did you say the OIC is, Troy? Where'd you say their conference is?
Palm Beach.
Oh, brutal. That's tough.
In Florida?
Unfortunately, it's in Florida.
Oh.
And
where's President Trump at? Is he Palm Beach?
I think Mar-a-Lago's right down the corner.
He's south.
Wow.
Well, this is south. Palm Beach
is that part
south.
of the whole staying in the Watergate Hotel? Maybe doing a favor for him. Maybe you see him at OICs.
Well, they don't trust emails. They don't trust emails, so they want me to fly the documents so
personally at a options conference.
That's right. So who knows who's going to be popping on the screen with me next week? It'll be fun.
Can you bring some OO swag, and maybe we could see you and somebody from the inner circle with a little swag.
Oh my goodness, Troy.
I would love to have some swag. I will tell you guys right now, Matt and Rusty told me last week, hey, you need to get some emergency swag created for this thing because there's a last minute decision. Emergency swag, very expensive.
I bet.
Very expensive to get emergency swag. So anyway, guys, well, let's talk markets a little bit this morning.
Okay. We're at 5,500, right?
Yeah,
what's going on?
So we're up 2. We just turned positive a minute ago.
Okay.
Dan, the whole point of being an options trader is you don't want to have to guess direction all day.
Right.
But I can't help but look at this and look at the action last week and think to myself, I think today's an inside day. No, last time I said this, I think Friday wasn't. I would
Yeah.
put Friday as an inside day. Thursday definitely was not an inside day. I do think we're in an inside day. That's my theory.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a range bound. I say this lightly. It's a range bound environment as we open up the trading for the week, but there's definitely some catalysts on the board that can change things. I think, is it Wednesday, the PCE and the GDP, or don't they say the
That's
PCE
right.
is the inflation thing or the Fed thing, and then Friday is the non-farm payrolls, unemployment, and then you have the big dogs this week, right?
There's a couple red news, yeah,
the big earnings stuff starting. Let's see, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday, if I'm correct on this, you've got Microsoft, Meta, Robinhood. Thursday, Apple, McDonald's, Amazon, Lilly, and then Friday, the oils, CVX and XOM. So, I mean, here's the question. I got one for Matt and Troy. I think we closed 25 in the VIX. Is that correct on Friday? I'm not sure.
So, yeah.
We'll open. So. Do you think this week will hit if you had to make a guess and for the week, will we hit 20 or 30 this week? A, will we hit either of those? And B, which one would we hit first?
Great question. Matt, I'll let you answer first.
The answer to this question is I'm so terrible at doing this kind of guessing, which is why I'm a mechanical option trader, because I don't know. If I knew in tracking my discretionary trades, I would say that they are very luck based and rather than intuition based. I would say the sentiment gauge. I don't know about how you guys felt, and I'm just judging this from the sentiment that it felt like the sentiment was at the end of last week started to turn a little bullish.
Yeah.
And I would say two things. I feel like earnings are going to be under the microscope maybe. And, any of those, not any of those, but several of those names you mentioned are definitely could give a jump to the market in either direction if they have big earnings. And that's what we saw with Google, right? I mean, Google came out with positive earnings. And I'm not saying that Google was behind the consolidation upwards, but we had that move. I feel like in the short term, if these companies don't mention the R word a lot, then I could see us not going back to 5,000 soon and VIX going down. I would say in the longer term, these tariffs, I don't think anybody has any concrete idea what the actual effect is going to be. Like I just don't. And people do, it's an impossible game to guess what impact it's going to have on the actual economy. As you pointed out, Dan, it's a pretty stacked week as far as announcements. If you filter by, a lot of folks use Forex Factory in our community. If you filter by the orange and red for the US market, it's a pretty full week, especially compared with last week. So I think if earnings are positive, especially with the tech companies, I mean, that's been the story for a decade plus now, is that they have like just a large amount of attention. So I'm serving up a Yappuccino here, but my official guess is, despite having 100-point candles, I guess I'm giving it a soft lean.
Wow.
Towards 20, but my confidence level is like 45, 55. So it's like not confident at all. Like I'm only doing that because you can't not take a position on a question like that. So I'm giving it a very soft. I guess we'll see VIX 20. I think it's stupid. Yeah, but that's my guess.
All right.
As always, I have no idea.
Sure.
I would bet my kid's life. I like taking the opposite.
I like this.
There it is.
I don't think we're going to hit either this week.
Interesting.
But I think we'll be under 25 by Friday. That's my theory.
That's a good concrete answer. Yeah.
Let me ask
and
you.
I feel confident.
Do you feel with the tariff stuff, is it too early to expect the tariff stuff to infiltrate earnings that are coming out this week?
No, that's what I think a catalyst is going to be in either. I don't think it's too early, especially with companies that deal with like real stuff, like that make like water bottles and like headphones and like physical goods. I think that those guys have been in, I don't want to say panic mode, but I think in the last month, there's probably been a heavier load in Excel spreadsheets than there has in many years. I think a lot of those guys are seriously trying to figure it out. I think the shipment of goods across ports, I am not an expert in that world, but dabble in a few of the related shipping stocks and whatever. There's a lot of focus on traffic and the routing, and it's possible to get that stuff at a very granular level and see where ships are going. And I think there's just a mega amount of uncertainty, which again, I'm of the belief that was known before Liberation Day, that there was going to be uncertainty. So I don't think it's too early at all. I'm not sure this week you're going to see those announcements as much. And I would say the other thing is, another category of potential kind of market movers is some of these huge retailers, right? Like the Walmarts and the Targets of the world. And I remember, especially in 2022, sometimes when those guys gave projections about consumer demand, that the market had some pretty strong reactions. Not that they're at the level of a Meta or a Netflix, but a lot of the American economy is driven by consumer spending, credit card levels, that kind of thing. And those companies, I would imagine, have about as good of a handle on that as anybody can have. So when you look at this week's calendar, that's something else I would be, interested in looking at.
Does it impact anything, the fact that I think in Yahoo Finance today, I saw a chart, just a price chart showing from Liberation Day to the current, and we're basically exactly where we were. What do you think about that in any technical? Does it move the dial anything? Like
there's a part of it that in my mind is like the COVID effect, where if you remember in COVID, the market was already down 30% before the official bad news came out, like jobs reports and things like that.
That's right.
And I remember people who don't watch the market being like, man, once that jobs report number comes out, people are going to really crash the market. And I said, it's already over. You didn't even know it. Like, the market's really good at front running stuff.
Yes.
That's right.
That's the whole point.
Yes.
And so I really think that, it's already, they're pricing it in. They've priced it in now. And now we're kind of like, okay, now here's the thing that's the unknown part of it. And this is where my mind plays tricks on me, because I think they've priced it in, but then because you can't price in Trump. And that's the hard part.
Yeah.
You can't price in Trump. Like, you could price in COVID because you kind of understood what was happening.
Yeah.
But you can't price in the swings of like, it's on, it's off, it's off, it's on.
And here's the other thing that that kind of fits into this, because it has a big impact on commodities. There's still a major war going on in the Ukraine and Russia. And there was a picture that got, made some headlines of Trump and Zelensky. I think it was in the Vatican, right?
It's in the Vatican.
It's a kind of I looked at it and thought, man,
he's a meme machine. He's a meme machine.
I know. Well, I looked at it and thought, man, if this thing has some sort of, God willing, hopefully peaceful resolution in the near future, like that picture, like it was I kind of had that iconic.
That should be on like Life magazine or
and it's tough talking about things like this, because obviously there's like a significant human cost, and like that's we all feel that. That's not really our show, but from an economic standpoint, not to sound callous, but that war has like major repercussions on a lot of those same supply chains and commodity flows that tariffs do. And so I don't know what that would do to the market if the Ukraine situation resolves somewhat soon and somewhat peacefully. But I got to think that would maybe have a little bit of an impact as well. I mean, we're at several years into that conflict now. It's and
no, it's 3 years. Yeah.
So a major conflict and with major economic repercussions. So like that's still out there. You have the situation in the Mid East with the Houthis and the shipping that also impacts commodity flows. So you still have these two geopolitical situations that are also just percolating as well.
I don't know. The thing that I can't figure out is there's a delay in the process of like getting materials from China. And there is a theory that like the shock, like the news has been a shock, but the actual business side of things hasn't been shocked yet. And so I saw something this weekend that was like a calendar of like from when they ship to China to when it's in a truck. And I'll be interested to see how that plays out. Again, I think the market's really good at front running stuff. I think the market knows all this. But if suddenly logistics companies and trucking companies have nothing to ship, I think that could actually take the market lower. I think the China not resolving would take the market lower. I think they've priced in some good news, maybe a little. They're front running some fake good news too, I think.
I agree with everything you said. And again, it's going to be this is such a complex thing. You've got like today, Newcore Steel reports, like if you're not a stock trader or you're not in the industrial business or the steel business, you're probably not thinking a lot about Newcore Steel. That's the exact type of company that could have a serious word on how the tariffs would impact them. They're a domestic United States steel manufacturer who's integrated in many levels of steel manufacturing. And, that's somebody who you would think would probably have a more bullish opinion on the tariffs and what it would mean for their business. And so like during these times where it just feels like everything is under a microscope and the news just has an increased potential to move things either way. And so this week, the earnings, what'd you say, Dan? We have Meta and then Microsoft are on Wednesday, Robinhood. Yeah, we've got, you've got companies like even Airbnb. Like if Airbnb comes out and says our bookings are down 30% over where we expected, like I'm just making this up. Okay. If Airbnb says that, the Airbnbs of the world, the Mastercards, the Visas, which both Mastercard and Visa report this week as well, those also have the potential because those guys' whole business is data flows of, how people are using their services. They have those data flows probably earlier than anybody else, right? Like earlier than the government data. Like Airbnb can tell you, I'm sure they can tell you what projections are for summer and fall and what the travel spend is going to look like. When you start talking about Troy front running the market and our consumers starting to pull back on their spending, do you start hearing the R word more often? Those are the kind of things, in my opinion, that can just come out of seemingly nowhere. And then you see a big gap overnight and it's, well, Airbnb said their bookings are off a crazy percentage,
Well, let me real quick. Troy had a good pulse on the downside with the volatility and it going down. Troy, as you're waiting here for the next Big Short, again, I'm thinking of who's the actor from The Office? Michael, what's his name?
Steve
Michael Scott.
Steve Carroll. What point, Troy, this week would get you excited about the possibility of maybe buying some little put out of the money or something. What would have to happen here for you to think that there maybe is a shot we could hit 35 in the VIX again? Would you have to see some numbers in the SPX? Would you need to see what would?
Well, unfortunately, at this point, like my crystal ball is gone, and so I've lost it. Once
you used up all the crystals this week or this month, this previous month. Hey, we're still in April. This all happened in April, right?
I know. But I will say, I think to answer the question, I already have those on. That's the question, and so then it's a question of I like having those on, and as a general rule with like tail hedging and things like that with volatility, the key is to always have them on. Now, the key is also not to buy them when VIX is at 50. That's the other part that's really important. So at a VIX 25, if you don't think this is over, that's a great spot to buy stuff. And people are like, well, that's crazy. VIX is high. Yeah,
it is. It
can go a lot higher and it can go a lot lower. So I think you have to be careful. But it actually feeds into what I want to talk about this morning real quick. I've got a test that start again. I like to start with terrible tests and then build from there. Last week we talked about opening range breakout, and I showed on Friday a butterfly you could do for a credit, and it got us thinking. Some people asked to do some stuff. So this week, if it's okay, we're going to look at butterflies for credits. What do you guys think of that?
I like it.
I love it.
Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you this trade, and we're going to talk about this. And this actually this is some options education. So if you're new to options, just pay attention to this because it's important. If you think you know options, pay attention to this because it's important. There's a lot going on with these credits. So let's look at this test. So this is a starter trade. It's a terrible trade. No one would actually trade this.
Right.
I would not trade this. But it gives you the idea. So what are we doing? We are every day at 10:30 buying a call 80 points away that expires the next day.
Okay.
We're selling 2 calls that expire 15 points past that, wherever that is.
Okay.
And then we're buying a call that expires 50 points past that. So it's a broken wing butterfly to the upside.
Okay.
So the Greeks of this, maybe Dan, tomorrow we could dig into the Greeks of what this looks like.
Absolutely.
But one thing that's important to look at here, there's a couple things. A, anytime you're receiving a credit, unless it's like at the money or something like that, and it's out of the money, you're probably going to win the majority of the time, right? That's usually how credits received go, because credits are decaying. That's just the name of the game. That's why most retail traders who are trying to do income trades sell credit. The other thing that's super interesting straight off the bat is notice here, right here, I'm only going to do this if I can collect at least $1. I'm making it a credit all the time.
Yeah.
Basically. Okay. Because of that, what's super interesting, there's no guardrails, there's no filters other than that. Notice the times that we trade this. We have a whole swath, basically, from March of 2023 to about July of 2024, where this did not trade. Now, straight off the bat, why would you guess that's the case?
You're not getting the credit.
Not getting the credit.
Volatility.
Right?
Yeah. You look at this, and this is. I mean, you don't have a volatility indicator, but if you look at this backtest, it's 2022 when we had higher vol, and it's more recent times.
So straight away, you would want to. That'll help us this week as we kind of guide this.
Yeah,
we're probably looking at a couple different type of tests this week rather than just one all season test.
Yeah, love it.
Right now, here's the follow up. If you look at where, like the recent kind of the graph there kind of shows you, this has been terrible the last couple weeks.
Yep.
Let's just run that real quick. Now, why has that been terrible the last couple weeks?
Well, the size of the moves. I mean, you've had these huge upside moves that would blow you out to the upside, because what's the max potential loser on this thing?
Well, it's fixed. Yeah, there's a fixed loss, but it's a lot more than your credit. But
Right.
So
yeah,
it can go to $20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of $1.50 credits to equal a full loser.
So straight away, as we look at that, here's the questions to think through this week.
Yeah.
A, why in the world would anybody ever do this? And
well, yeah, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't do this one, but I will say, let me see if I can do this real quick. Let's put it. I don't know how to do that live, but I'll show you. To be in full, full disclosure, I have a bunch of these on right now. Now it's not exactly this. It's not exactly this, but I've got one expiring today. I've got some expiring Tuesday. I've got some expiring Wednesday. I think that it can be a great trade. So the question is, why would I do that? What would be the reasons that you're putting something on for a small credit? It does have a payoff, but it has a big loser if you blow past it.
Yeah, well, it has the potential of a Yahtzee, right? So if you feel like vol is fairly priced and you're position sized correctly, then it's just you get a good back test and you run the math. So to your point, this is the starter back test. This is not the good back test, but you could do that because you have the potential of getting a credit and then closing for a credit.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Dan, you have any thoughts about this bad test so far?
Yeah, do me a favor. So I just want to, as far as I'm picturing this in my mind and for viewers there, if we just take the first one on Thursday, April 24th, so the actual fly is, all right, so when you entered it, we were at 55 and where was the SPX when we entered that?
We're at 54.40.
Okay, so at 54.40, just real quick, we bought, let's just put it on a one contract. Wait, what did we buy? We bought the
55.20.
Yeah.
We sold the 55.35. And we bought the 55.70.
So the width of the broken wing would be 15 by 35.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So these are, a couple quick comments. I think these are, when you contrast these with a balanced butterflies in terms of, like, when you look at directional shots, would you call this a directional shot, Troy?
Yeah.
That'd be fair. So in the world of directional shots, your most expensive, but if it really, moves, your long call would be the most, you can be a hero, right? If things go crazy.
Right.
Next in the hero line would be because that's going to be the most deltas. Then next in the hero line would be the vertical debit spread, right? To a degree, because you got, especially if you do a wider one, you're getting more delta. Then number 3, I would put this broken wing butterfly, where it's you're picking up some good long deltas. It's bullish the way Troy has it. It's not going to have the yield of a balanced butterfly, but it's more. It can be more effective because balanced butterfly, you need timing. You need it like Troy showed last week, and I think that I love that balanced butterfly deal last week for a 0 day, because when you do it 7 days out, you could get the move you want and not make any money. So I like this, and I was looking at. You mentioned, Troy, between, did I get this correct? March 2023 and July 2024, this thing didn't trade, right?
Roughly, yeah, basically.
Yeah. The interesting thing is it probably would have worked because it's just, I'm looking at a VIX chart on my other screen. You had quite a bit of 14 VIX in there, right?
That's right.
So it's interesting. I agree. You cut it off. You want to get a certain credit. But if VIX was 14, the market was going a certain direction and it wasn't down, right?
That's right.
I guarantee if we're 14. So it would have, and that's a tough one, right? Because you would have made money if you had less than $1 credit, probably, but at some point you got to stop it, right?
Yeah.
So I think these are great trades. Is that tweet coming from?
Yeah, sorry, I've got little birds talking right now, but
I love that.
nest.
But I think these are a wonderful tool because there's so many how you do it. Like you did it, Troy. You did a 1535, right? If someone was more bullish or delta, they could do a 2035, right? Or they could do a well, let me see if I'm doing the wait. What's the delta? Wait, this is a 15 wide by 35. So wait a second. This is actually short deltas, right?
Well, it changes.
Depending on where you are.
It changes based on time because the gamma is going to flip a little bit and then flip back up. So,
what do you think it would start with, Troy? When you start,
probably -1 to 2 deltas.
I was thinking, the more I look, it's like you're starting out short deltas, and then you're saying over time, like as you add days, it gets a little more less delta short. Okay,
that's right.
Yeah, we'd love to look at the Greeks on that tomorrow.
Yeah, we might look at it tomorrow and kind of deep dive. I will give you guys a hint if you're playing along at home, and then we'll run because I know we're going late. We actually are trading it in this test the exactly wrong times you'd want to trade this. So maybe to the point of the 14, 15 VIX, because here's what you're thinking basically when you say this. I don't have any conviction that the market is going up a lot in the next couple of days. But I think we're potentially going higher and stopping at certain spots. That's kind of what you're doing. So to end it, I mean, this is one I've got on right now in SPX. I collected a cool and calm $10 on this straddle on this trade, and then basically, if we end up towards the 5600 strike today, that'd be a pin, be the max loser or max winner. If we go past 5615. Max loser 1490. So why would you put this on? Well, because today I don't have any confidence that we're going to go past 5600. Now I recognize also that one tweet could put us at 6,000 today. I recognize that, but you take your shots. It's about risk management. It's about risk. So anyway.
It's one quick comment, but it is a one. I mean, when you look at the environment we're in, right? Huge move up last week, right? Mm-hmm. Huge move up. And I think if there was ever a time I would consider this strategy, it's now, because it's like your downside's fine. If it leaning a little short delta, I like that. But over a couple days, if we drift up, and I think it's more of a drift up, I mean, to say that the market is just going to run away on the upside after what it did last week, good grief, Charlie Brown. Exactly. Right?
Exactly.
There's no stinking. I mean, I don't want to say there's no way. As Matt said, there's definitely some catalysts.
Earnings, tweets,
Yeah, there's a lot of powder kegs, but I'm saying at least to start, I like this because Troy, right? Downside, you're in good shape. You're really one scenario you got to play strong defense against, which Troy's a Lakers fan. Luka is not known for his strong defense.
That's right.
The Pacers are coming up here. Yeah. But the strong defense needs to be, and I'd take that if we move up where do you have on these past 5,600? You got to play D on this one, Troy?
Yeah. And we'll talk about defense on this later this week because there's some specific things you can do to do that. But I know we're short on time. I will say just, the most important thing, and I've got to get this off my chest. Tyrese Haliburton has the weirdest shot I've ever seen in my life. A Shawn Marion type 3. So I just
guys aren't even watching the series. It's not even the weirdest shot in the series, guys. Have you seen Green?
Don't you love how he slips that in right at the end of the show?
I know.
Here's what I have to say. When you're a career 40% 3-point shooter.
Is he really?
Yeah. And your team's up 3-1. You've never lost a game 4, never lost a home playoff game. Here's my definition of a good shot.
They haven't been in the playoffs, so they haven't been in the playoffs.
A good shot is a shot that goes in. A good shot is a shot that goes in. That's my definition of a shot. That's
Listen,
good.
tomorrow
One that goes in.
We will continue this discussion with Dan and I and Shawn Marion tomorrow. And it'll be
NBA champion Shawn Marion will be joining us from the Watergate Hotel, possibly.
He's another one with a funky shot. Yeah,
that's right. All right, guys. Listen, we went late, but we'll continue talking tomorrow. So have a great trading day.
Hey, and if you want to play with this back test and refine it, we'll drop a link. Shout out to the chat.
Shout out to the talk. Talk to you guys soon.
See ya.